2, Basic HTML Elements, Part 2. In this part, we will learn a few more basic HTML elements. So let's start with one, special concept. Here, we want to compare these two types of elements, block elements and inline elements. From these two names, you can guess the idea a little bit. Now, let us look at the inline elements first. An inline element does not start on a new line in line. You do not need to start from a new line. You can place those elements in the, normal line environment. All right? Now, new line, and it only takes up as much width as necessary. So there is some default. For each element, there is some default space allocated by the browser. So that amount of space is used to occupy at the location, its natural location. So we just call it natural location. Because when the browser renders the whole document, there is a natural flow. Line by line, natural flow, the space. So the browser follows its internal rules to arrange the elements. So based on those rules, this current element should be placed in the line environment, the natural location. That's the inline meaning. Two examples, image and hyperlink. These two examples. Here we can understand it's pretty natural to use these two elements as inline elements. Why? Because, so think about, so when you have, line by line text to display, then at a special location, you may like to put a small image, right? Sometimes you put a small little nice image you want to place right there. You don't want to change to a new location, right? You don't want to start at a new line location. That's not convenient. You just want to keep in the same line, but you want to display a special little image. So hyperlink, even more, you like to use in an inline way, hyperlink. Because hyperlink, we know that's part of the normal text, right? That's part of the normal text. Just some special segment of text, you want to use it as an anchor. You put a link, put a reference associated with that link. So from the way they are used, we feel, inline way is much better. Okay, all right. Next, let's look at the block elements. For some other elements, we want to use them as block elements. So what's that? So here, I think you can guess the meaning easily. A block level element always starts on a new line and it takes up the full width available, stretches out to the left and to the right as far as it can. Here, let me draw a simple diagram to explain this. All right, the block. We need to define a block, right? So a block in a page, we define in this way. Stretch the leftmost point, rightmost point, you touch the border. Yeah. So this is a block. Okay, we define like that. Okay, yeah, that's the block. All right. So when you use a block element, you have to start from a new line. Okay, from beginning. Yeah. So there. But a stretch, some people may ask, because I start a new line, so how do I stretch to the left? Don't worry, because even you start with a new line, you may have the situation because your element is placed at the middle, right? Yeah, sometimes you may like to put your element in the middle. Yeah, in that situation, then stretch to the left, to the right. Okay, yeah, that means these two sides, you cannot put other elements. Oh, by default, you cannot put other elements. Why I say this by default? Because sometimes we really want to put some other elements in the space to its left and the right. We have some way to do it, right? Yeah, we should have some way to do it. Yeah. Here I said by default, that means if we do not do anything special, then we cannot put anything to its left and to its right. But if we really want to do, put something very important to its left or right, we can do it. We have the technique to do it. Yeah, I'll talk about that later. Yeah. All right. Here you can see this is what we mean block elements. Yeah. Example here, I need to give you example, division. Here from the name, you can see this div, we define a division. So what's the division? It is just a block element we define. You can put a lot of other elements inside this division element. So it is used as a container. Yeah, you want to put a container, but the block type container. And this element, typically we use it a lot in CSS. All right, yeah. In CSS, yeah. When we need to apply many CSS rules, we need to use a lot of division elements. Yeah, so we will go there in much more details when we talk about CSS. Yeah. Here, just let you know. Yeah. Later, we have more block elements. So you will see. So we have more block elements. Here, you just get the idea of this concept. Block elements. This concept. Yeah. All right. So that's our, this small topic. Yeah. Next, I want to talk about another concept called absolute URLs versus relative URLs. Yeah. So if you took Unix before, yeah, actually not necessarily Unix, because if you use Windows, you have some, basic knowledge about paths, right? Folders, paths. You have that kind of experience. Yeah. All right. Here, when we use the hyperlink, you need to specify URL. When you specify a URL, there are two different ways. Yeah. Absolute URLs and relative URLs. Yeah. Here, let me describe these two types of URLs. Yeah. First, absolute URLs. Yeah. The target document, the target concept, right? Yeah, the target concept. This point to the target. Okay, yeah. Target, typically it's a document, right? Yeah, the target document is in a different server. That's one of the cases. Different server, you have to use the absolute URLs. You have no other choices. You have to use this way. Yeah, that's the first case. But second case, the target document is in a different web application in the same server. Yeah. Here, we call it different web application, but in the same server. So what's that? Now, let me describe. We know each server, we can host large number of web applications, right? Yeah. Because in a server, we have a lot of resources. So we can use it to run many web applications, right? Yeah. So different web applications. Yeah. In that situation, although they are in the same server, right? They're in the same server. But when we go from one web application, jump to another web application, we have to use absolute URL, not relative URL. Absolute URL, not relative URL. Why? You may ask me why. Here, let me just use a simple sentence to give you the reason why. Because we want to protect resource from other different web applications. We want to protect the data. Okay? We want to, do some good protection on data in one particular web application. Okay? Yeah. All right. Then, yeah, here, that's just a simple example of absolute URL. All right? Absolute URL, you can start with domain name, typically. Domain name. That's the, ultimate root you start with. Ultimate root you start with. Yeah, absolute. Okay, yeah. All right. Next, relative URLs. Then, the situation to use this relative URL. The target document is in the same web application. Okay, yeah, in the same web application. Then in the same directory or a different directory, not necessarily, yeah, same directory. So that's one of the cases. Yeah. Or a different directory. That's okay, different directory, we can still use relative URLs. Yeah. Here, let me give it a simple example. All right. Suppose one document we use, one reference here. This example corresponds to the same directory. Yeah, same directory. So you just put a file name there. You do not need to mention any directory. Same directory. By default, it's the same directory. Yeah. All right. But for the different directory, then you may need to specify directory name. Directory name. Okay? Yeah. Even further, because sometimes you need to navigate to different directory. Navigate. Upper level, lower level, yeah. You need to navigate your resource in different directory. All right? In that situation, you need to use that, Unix way to go to different directory. So here I talk about you need to have the knowledge of Unix a little bit. Okay? That means current directory, you use dot, right? Current directory, parent directory, dot, parent directory. Okay? Yeah. Upper one level, upper higher, that way. A Unix way. Right? Yeah. So if you know it, then you understand how to use this dot or dot. Yeah. Otherwise, if you do not understand, so you may, not have idea, if you do not have any experience using this way, then you may get lost, right? All right. Yeah, but later, I may explain this method a little more. I may create some questions to help you understand this way, this special way. All right, yeah. So that's this topic. Next, then I want to talk about another basic element, HTML lists. Yeah. Sometimes we need to list items. Yeah. When we list items, we have many different ways to list. Yeah. Different types of lists, and in some different styles also. Yeah. All right, so let's look at the details. Yeah. HTML lists allow web developers to group set of related items in lists. Yeah. All right. How do we group? Yeah. First, there are two different types. The first type, unordered list. Yeah. So you do not see the order number 1, 2, 3, 4. That order number, those order numbers. Yeah. Because sometimes we do not need to use numbers. So unordered lists. Yeah. And unordered lists start with UL tag name. Yeah, we just want to use a simple tag name for it. UL, unordered list. So you can memorize it easily. UL, little UL, tag name. Yeah. All right, each item starts with LI tag, list, LI tag, list item, right? List item, LI tag. All right. The list items will be marked with bullets. Yeah, bullets. All right, by default. By default. Yeah. All right. So here, just a simple example. Yeah. We create an unordered list with 3 items: coffee, tea, milk. So following the syntax, we use this way. Yeah. All right. Then when we display this element, you will see the view like this. Bullet. So for each item, so bullet, coffee, bullet, tea, bullet, milk. Yeah. That simple way. Yeah. All right. Next, ordered list. Yes. So sometimes we need to put numbers, especially we have relatively large number of items. Yeah. We want to, put a reference numbers for those items. Yeah. We can use ordered list. Yeah. And ordered list starts with tag OL. Yeah, ordered OL. So then each item still LI tag. All right, yeah. The list items will be marked with numbers by default. Natural numbers by default. But you have options. You can change using different ways to number them. But default one, let's look at the default one first. Yeah. All right. For the previous example, we just changed to OL, ordered list. Yeah. So what do you see? 1 coffee, 2 tea, 3 milk. All right? Yeah, that's simple. Yeah. All right. All right. Yeah. But here I also want to show you to display the order numbers in different ways. Yeah. So in my next slide, I will show you in different ways. But before we go there, let me mention one basic thing, property first. Yeah. The UL and OL elements. These two list elements are block elements. Yeah, you know the meaning, block elements. So they are block elements. All right. So yeah, stretch, to the left end, also stretch to the right end, right? Things like that, yeah. But if you want to put things in parallel, yeah, sometimes you want to put two different elements in parallel. You need to do something special to do that, right? Something special to do that, yeah. But by default, yes, you have to follow that block rule, yeah. All right. Next, let me show you several ways to display different types of ordered lists. Yeah. All right. Various types. All right. First, numbered with uppercase letters, A, B, C, D, but uppercase. Yeah. Sometimes we want to do that. You only need to add a special attribute. Type equals capital A. Yeah. You only need to add this special attribute. Here you can see the way we use attribute, right? We want to change some special property. Special property we want to add to the element. Then the most convenient way, you use some special attribute. Yeah. Here, the example is like this. Yeah. Similarly, we can change the attribute type using different values to get different types of ordered lists. Yeah. Let us look at a few more examples. Yeah. Numbered with lowercase letters. Little a, the value becomes from capital A to little a. Yeah. This time you get little a number, A, B, C, D. Little, lowercase letters. Yeah. All right. Numbered with uppercase Roman numbers. You know the Roman numbers, right? Yeah. Capital I. Capital I, then you want to use capital Roman numbers like this. Similarly, lowercase Roman numbers, right? Lowercase I, little I, right? So it's pretty easy to use these different styles or types. Yeah. All right. There is another special way to use the list. Sometimes you want to start not from 1, you want to start from somewhere in the middle. Here you want to start from item number 5. How about that? So you use another special attribute, start. Start equals 5, like this. Yeah. Why start from 5? So think about. You want to arrange your lists in 2 columns. How about that? 2 columns. 1, 2, 3 at the left column, and 4, 5, 6 at the right column, right? In this way, when you display the ordered list at the right column, you don't want to start from 1, you want to start from 4. In that situation, this feature is useful, right? All right, so we finish our video B.2 at this point.